Right, Pop. How many fingers am I holding up now? 5? Are you sure? Okay, alright. What's that? Good, okay. So what's these? Okay. Okay.
So this video has been a long time coming. I'm just going to go through a few things which may or may not help some of you who are in this position, and we're going to touch on whether, you know, what people think about mediums, are mediums real, and things like that. But I'm also going to go through everything as it happened so that you can kind of get a picture of why I went in that direction, and then you can make a judgment call for yourself. Now, I lost my dad back in March, and initially I was I knew he was 89 years old. He had a lot of conditions being 89 years old, which didn't help, and he lived his life on his terms. So he never took medication. He just went about his business and did his own thing the way he wanted. So I think I'd probably be like that, you know, because you're on planet Earth, you are going to die at some point. When you live, you know, for the minute you're born, one thing in life is guaranteed, and that's death. It's just when it happens. That is the only difference. And most of the time, the people who are upset are the people who are left behind, not the person who's gone, because they're out of pain. So it's because you're thinking about them, and then you wish they were here and things like that. And, you know, I miss my dad every day. But I also remember two things. One is it was going to happen. And two, he's in a better place. And I've got videos which I took a couple when he was in hospital, and I never deleted them because it reminds me of how he was and how he's in a better place, and that might help you as well. If you have older videos of him, of when he's in the more recent times where they are not in their best shape, whether it's your mum, your dad, or whoever the case is. Now, losing a parent is definitely different from losing a loved one like your other half or something like that. Now, I've never had that, touch wood, can't find any wood here, but you know, I've never had that. But the emotions that run through your mind at that time, you can't prepare for, because only if you have lost somebody in that capacity would you have any idea of what it's like. If you've never lost anyone, you're not going to be able to relate to this. But if you've lost a parent and lost a loved one, you should be able to relate a little bit, because the capacity at which they play to you is going to affect how you feel. Now, my brothers said to me that, you know, losing a loved one, losing like your other half, is obviously different from losing a parent, and I can appreciate that, because it's a different kind of love. So that is going to play on your mind, and you're not going to, even if you've lost your friends and stuff, for the minute you lose somebody really close, it's going to be a different ball game, and the emotions that are going to come out are going to be different. You know, you're going to feel different things, I suppose. But what I can tell you is this: is when my dad passed away, and I'm going to go through the stages of everything that happened so that you know why I took the course I did. And maybe you would take the same course, maybe you wouldn't, I don't know. But the day he passed away, he was in hospital, and he wanted to be at home, but he was there. So I felt a bit guilty anyway, but this is how it went down. And we left him on a Friday night in Croydon University Hospital, and they had made the children's ward into like it was some sort of other lounge for the elderly, you know, and the people who were going home. And he was in that particular area, and I remember going there, and he seemed to be okay. He seemed pretty jolly and stuff. So I thought, yeah, it's all right, I'll come back tomorrow, kind of thing. So initially didn't want us to go, but then he went, okay, you can go. So we went, and I was tired anyway, because up until that time, every single day I'd been there, you know, driving up and down, and it really does take a toll when you'd been doing it for a month. And I said to him that we'll see him later, etc., etc., and we all went home. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, or was it 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock, I think it was 2 o'clock, I got a call from the hospital saying, we think this is it. So I got dressed, tried ringing my mum. She wasn't picking up the phone, so I literally went to her place or sheltered living, and I was banging on the door because I thought I can't go to the hospital without her because she'll never forgive me. So I banged on the door, she opened up, and then she jumped into her clothing and off we went. This is like silly o'clock in the morning. And when I got there, the first thing I did is I parked up on Woodcroft Road, and as I went to go into the back entrance, which is what I usually do, I didn't realise they closed that entrance at night or early hours, so I couldn't get in. So then I thought we need to go around the front, but I thought the likelihood of that being open is also minimal. So you know what, we're going to have to go for accident and emergency and see what they say. That's literally what we did. We went to accident and emergency, and I was at the back of the queue initially, and I thought I can't wait around here, so I kind of moved out of the queue. And she goes, "Oh, can you line up?" I went, "No, because we've just had a call from the hospital, and from this hospital, and they said that it's time, so I need to be up in the ward." So on hearing that, the lady got the security guards to help us and go up to the Dolphin unit because that's where he was. And I remember going up there, Mum almost falling up the stairs, getting to the Dolphin ward, and he was kind of there. He had like the oxygen mask on him and things like that, but I wasn't sure what to do, you know. And I was sitting there, and then eventually the nurse came in, probably around about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes in. She wasn't a nurse, so it was just like a carer. And they wanted to do this x-ray on him, and I'm thinking, it's still silly o'clock in the morning, why are you even doing an x-ray on him at this time of the morning? Why? I didn't say that to him, but that's what was going through my head. And the minute they went to do that, he kind of made this funny movement while they moved him, and that's it, he was gone. And they said he's gone. Firstly, I was annoyed because of the fact that I was like, why are you doing an x-ray at this time of morning? For what reason? Can't you just leave him there? And secondly, I'm just thinking, well, you know, ultimately he was, you know, there's no way that he's going to live forever, but maybe we could have prolonged it a bit more. But then again, are we prolonging his pain? So, you know, it makes me think there was various other things that happened in that hospital that made me think, do people really know what they're doing? Because he had a lung condition as well. So if you gave him too much oxygen, that's going to damage his lungs and blah, 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 his lungs or whatever the case is. So I'm thinking that maybe they didn't know about this, because it just seems to me that there's communications in that area. People kind of don't talk to each other. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but this is the impression I get, because when he first went into hospital, he was lying in wet and things like that, and no one was bothering to change the wet bedding, and he was lying there, and they didn't know about the that he was on another kind of special food or whatever the case is. I think he was on something special anyway, and it just seemed that I had to go and do a lot of chasing and feed them the information that they already had, which made me think, do they really know what they're doing? And it's just things like that, little things like that, that really, I think, well, maybe they turned up the oxygen too much, and which is why he passed. I don't know. And I was going to write a complaint, but then I thought, what's the use when you're in that position? You know, you're in pain and stuff. It's maybe just what maybe you want to go. I don't know. Now, with that in mind, the nurse then came in literally about half hour, 45 minutes, or maybe an hour later, to check him and stuff, and said, no, he's definitely dead, kind of thing. He's gotten his past. So I wasn't sure what to feel, and at the time, because you're just like, it's happened, and there's nothing you can do. So I text people and said he's gone, and then I went off with Mum, took her back home, and I kind of went to bed. I stayed with her the night, I remember that, and then like my girlfriend came over in the morning and stuff. And that day, on the Saturday, we had an event going on. It was my friend's event, and I'm supposed to DJ at this event. But bearing in mind what had just happened, I was not in the mood, so I lent them my laptop and stuff, and just left my equipment there for them to use, because I had the only music on there, and I wasn't in the mood to be partying, obviously. So yeah, that was that. Then that happened on the Saturday, and then on the Monday, it's like, right, you're thinking, what can I do? So I thought, well, death certificate, we need to get that sorted out, but you have to kind of book it and this, that, and the other, and go for a whole load of stuff that I've never done before. So what I did in the meantime is ring up the funeral directors because he had a funeral plan. And they said to me, look, this is what's going on. You've got a plot and it's in this location. You've got to ring up the crematorium. So I thought, okay, fair enough. So I rang them up and they said, yeah, come down and we'll give you a layout of where things are. Now, I don't go looking for graves because it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. It's not, I just don't do those things. But bearing in mind the circumstances, I had to. So I went to the crematorium and they gave me a photocopy, and then I parked my car in the only available spot there was there. And I thought, that looks really like where my auntie's buried, right? So we'll use that as a starting point, because I saw the number, I went to the my auntie's grave, and then I walked back. And when I walked back, looking at where the numbers were, his grave was literally where I parked my car. You just had to go up a few rows. And I was like, that's strange. Now, I never called my dad's name was Dennis, but I used to call him Pop rather than Dad, because Pop was what I always knew him by. And it's a long, I mean, if you watch my video of the funeral, you'll know why I call him Pop, and I've gone into details on there. Anyways, when I turned around and said to Mum, this is it, because it was literally in between, it's like by a tree, and it's in between two other graves. So I kind of like turned around and looked down, and when I looked down to my left, there was a bunch of flowers there that said Pop on it. And it wasn't even on my dad's grave, but it was on this other grave, and it just said Pop on there. And I'm sort of like, you're thinking, this is really, like, is this coincidence, or did he send me a message? Or, and it gets you thinking, right? Anyway, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Nah, not going to bother with this one. It must be coincidence. It's me making it up. That's what I thought, right? So I've gone to the car, gone off, left it. That was the first incident that I had, and I didn't think too much of it. Okay. Then the next incident that I had was I think it wasn't straight away. It was, oh, that's right. We went to see him in the Chapel of Rest, and this is going by about a month after, because it takes ages for them to go from the hospital to the Chapel of Rest. It was just long. Anyways, my cousin was around, and when we went to the Chapel of Rest, obviously you kind of see the person there, and I knew like he checked out. He wasn't there anymore. That's his body, but he's not there. No one's home. So I kind of held his hand and said a few things, and then walked off. Now, my dad used to drink San Miguel. He used to love San Miguel. That was his favourite. And because of that, he's to every so often, or every week, I'd go with him and we'd buy the drink from the shop, and he'd have a bit of a drink and stuff, right? Anyways, when I got back from Chapel of Rest, my cousin was with me, I pulled up in my parking space, and on the wall there was a can of San Miguel. I'm thinking, of all the drinks in the world, there's a can of San Miguel on my wall, on my parking spot. I was like, it kind of made me think. I said to my cousin, "Do you see what I see?" And he went, "What, the registration?" I went, "No, look at that." And then he's like, "Oh." I said, "Yeah." I said, "How strange is that?" So that was two coincidences. But again, I was like, well, I don't know. Anyway, the third coincidence, I then went to, this is going back, this is another week has passed, right? And I had a storage area where I was storing some stuff. It was down in West Norwood. I've gone to West Norwood to the storage area. And coming out of the storage area, I had to stop because you've got to put your code in, etc., for the gates to open. I look up, and right opposite me is a shop. Pops. I'm looking, I'm thinking, everything now is kind of making me think, is he trying to communicate or not? It's just simple signs like that. Are you in touch with that side of yourself? And then I thought, I don't know. Anyway, I spoke to one of my friends, and she said to me, you should go and see a medium. And I was like, nah. She goes, no, trust me, just go and see this guy. I was like, no, we'll see, I'm not sure. I basically wasn't sure. Anyway, my cousin, bearing in mind, we built a statue of my dad So I 3D scanned him ages ago in 2017, and I used that to build the statue, and he came and helped me fill it and stuff like that. And those statues, by the way, I could show you a picture of it, put it up in a minute. If anyone wants a statue of their loved one, they need to get them 3D scanned long before anything happens to them. And then obviously you've got the file, and you can make it life size or whatever, you know, that sort of thing. If people are like that, I did that because I kind of felt like one of the things my dad said to me before he passed is he goes, no, I'll live forever and ever. So I figured, you know what, let me make that a reality. I'll make him into a statue. So that's what I did. Now, my cousin had a delivery as well. His friend sent him some glasses, again, like drink glasses. They came through and they had San Miguel written on them as well. So we're just sort of like, weird, you know. But I'm thinking, no, it must be my mind playing tricks on me. Must be. Anyways, then came the final straw, and this is what convinced me to go and see a medium. Okay, and I'm going to come to that in a moment. So listen to this. I'm at home. My mum rings me, and she's asking me about the will and what's going on with the ashes and stuff like that. And I'm like, Mum, the will is fine, you know, I'm waiting for the death certificate and this and that and the other. I said the ashes, at the time I hadn't got them. I said they're going to go to Roland Brothers, and then we'll go and collect them from there, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, on the Saturday morning, because my mum's got dementia, but she remembers some things, okay. Saturday morning, she rings me up and asks me exactly the same question, because she thought she heard my dad talking to her. Okay? No, she probably did. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? So my mum rings me up Saturday morning, and she's asking me exactly the same questions what she asked me on the Friday night. So I turned to the statue after coming off the phone to her, and I said, Pop, this is what's going on with your ashes. This is what's going on with your will. So don't worry, okay, it's all taken care of. We're going to sort it out. I turned my TV on, and I hit the guide button to see what was on TV. And literally, when I did that, across the whole of the guide for 3 or 4 TV programs, it just kept saying, Den, Dennis, Den, Dennis, Den, Dennis. I'm like, that's weird, because Dennis is my dad's name. I was like, wow. Okay, maybe I should go and see a medium now. So what I did is, because I didn't want to go and see, I'm still, even though my friend has told me, yeah, look, you know, you should definitely go and see him, he's probably trying to reach out, I was like, I don't know, I'm skeptical, right? But she said, this bloke Ivan Lee, go and see him. Anyway, I didn't book a one-to-one because he was all booked up. What I did do is I booked one of the spiritual evenings, because I thought, you know what, it's £5. If anything's going to happen, it's going to happen regardless. So I'm only losing a £5, because I'm also a trader, you know, so I'm looking and evaluating risks as well, and I'm thinking £5 is stuff. If I lose 35 or 40 quid, it's a bit different. But for a £5, let's go and see what the man has to say. Now, I watched a video before about this Ivan Lee, and the guy and somebody else was saying how good he was and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure if I was, you know, I was like, okay, let's just see, because you're, you know, as a skeptic as well, you just sort of like, you're trying to close your mind off to that kind of thing. But I thought, you know what, I'm not going to close my mind off. I'm going to keep my mind open, because in this universe, anything is possible. You just don't know, okay? You only think it's not possible if it's not logical. And just because it isn't logical doesn't mean it's not possible, if you know what I mean, right? Okay. So what ended up happening was, I've gone to the spiritual evening. I went with another friend of mine, and I went with my mum. Now, my mum had his walking stick. I had his pocket watch, which isn't working anyway, but I put it inside my pocket when I was at home, not even when I was at Fellows Court. The guy, Ivan Lee, didn't know I was coming down, didn't email him, nothing, knew nothing about me, didn't know who I was, okay? Because you turn up there, you pay £5 to a couple of people that are on the door. You don't give your name, you don't give anything, and you just walk in. Obviously, it's better to get there early. That's what I did. It was in Sutton, and the girl that I was with, Tina, the old lady, she said to me, she goes, shall we sit in the front? I said, I don't think it's going to matter where you sit. we're here, so let's just sit in the back. So we sat 2 rows from the back, right, second row in the back, right. I was sitting there, and it was like about 20 people in there. Starts at 7:45. We were there about 7:20. By 7:45, the place was packed. So I was like, this should be interesting. No lie. The guy comes in, and he says, he goes onto this stage kind of thing where he's talking, and he starts talking about football. Nothing to do with my dad or anything like that. Just starts talking about football. I'm like, okay. And then he turns around after about 5 minutes of nattering about football, that I hate football. Okay. He turns around and he says, "Oh well, I suppose we better get on with this then, shouldn't we?" Bearing in mind, he hasn't met me, doesn't know who I am or anything like that, right? And he's talking to 50, 60 other people in this room, not just me. Okay. Because we all don't know. Like, people are hoping that there's a message from and stuff like that. Anyways, the first words that come out of his mouth are, "Is there anybody here for a Dennis or a Derek?" Or is it a Derek or a Dennis? Yeah, Derek or a Dennis. I'm like, well, I start to put my hand up. Yeah, Dennis. He goes, "Oh, is that your dad?" He's kind of looking at me. We have a complicated, like, our family's a bit complicated, so let's just say that, yeah? So he's looking at me. "Is that you?" And I'm like, "Yep." And he goes, "Oh, it passed away very recently." I was like, "Yes." It's like, fluid on the lungs. I'm just looking at him because I don't want to give anything away. Now, he came out with some stuff that he couldn't have possibly known unless he literally spoke to my dad. First thing, he turns around and he goes, "Your dad said he's got his appetite back now." Now, when we were going to the hospital, we went to the clinic over there, Ace Clinic or something, and specifically asked for a tablet for his appetite because he didn't have one, because he said he wants his appetite to come back. So he turned around. So by him saying that, I was like, okay, still listening here. He turns around and he says he's also got his mobility back because he was staggering around quite a bit because his mobility was impaired a little bit. Okay. So I'm just there, like, bewildered at some of the stuff this guy was coming out with. Now, I can't remember every single little thing he said, but I do remember bits and pieces that kind of made me think there is life after death, for sure, because you can't possibly know this stuff. You know what I mean? So it was bizarre. But he turned around and he said, turned around and he said to me, "You came here today because..." Oh no, before he said that. No, I remember this. I was with a friend of mine and he said, "Oh, your dad tells me you haven't had much luck with the ladies, but recently you've met somebody new. Very recently." I was like, "Yeah, because that was spot on." And he said, "Oh, is that her there?" I went, "No." And then he went, "Oh, okay." But it was weird because he'd known that. And that was the other thing. I'll come back to it in a minute because I'm on this train of thought now. Yeah. He then turned around and he said, he said some other things as well. You know, your dad's soft-spoken, got his personality down to a T, very polite. He goes, "Oh, they're not always like this." He goes, "Your dad." He goes, "I like your dad. Very polite, blah, blah, blah." Anyways, then he turns around and he says, "You came here today because you wanted to know if he was okay." He goes, "He's telling me he's absolutely fine. He is fine over there." And when I heard that, I kind of felt comfort. I was like, well, at least I know he's okay where he is. But then, the one thing that he couldn't have possibly known, and this was the kicker, is he turned around and he said, "Oh, your dad's laughing." And I went, "He's laughing?" I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because he tells me you're carrying around his pocket watch and it stopped." There is no way in hell he knew I had that pocket watch on me and it had stopped. Only my dad knew that. So that kind of sealed the deal for me. And I thought, yeah, I was happy, you know. The other thing that I forgot to mention is on on the day that my dad passed, when I was supposed to go to do this party thing, my girlfriend, who I've met, you know, she was like quite new on the scene. She met my dad before he passed. She'd known him a few weeks. She walked in with the exact same bag that my dad always used to carry his stuff around in. It wasn't his bag, but it was the same style, the same colour, the same brand. It was identical. And that was the first thing that got to me that morning, because it kind of just hit me and I was like, wow. So if you want to know, is there life after death? Personally, I think there is. I can't see any reason why not. And I believe we're just here in the moment, doing our routine, in and out, every day of the week, whatever we do, to buy time before we go where we're supposed to. So, you know, I hope you find comfort with this sort of thing anyway. So if you want to know if our medium's real or not, well, it depends on who you go to, I think. But Ivan Lee, for me, he was real. You know, other people may say, no, you know, but what you got to remember is that just because you want to talk to somebody that's passed over to the other side doesn't always mean they want to talk to you. Okay? And if you're receiving signals, someone passes close to you, you're receiving signals, you're receiving, you know, or you're feeling coincidences or feeling something definitely feels different, go and see a medium. Go and see Ivan Lee. Okay? But if you're not receiving any of that, you're not receiving any signals or nothing, I wouldn't say bother, because the chances are you're probably not going to get anything. That's my own opinion. But, you know, everybody's different. But I just think if you're getting signals, go and see them. If you don't, ignore the signals, because they probably just want to communicate with you and tell you they're okay. Especially if you're feeling a bit down and out in the dumps and stuff like that, you know. But, you know, you've got to face the fact that it's going to happen to us all one day. And if it comforts you and gives you comfort by going to see somebody, yeah. If you want to be skeptical and think, oh, I'm talking a load of rubbish, that's your entitlement, you can do that. All I know is it was real for me, and this is what happened for me. I'm not saying it's going to happen for you, but it definitely happened for me. But you've got to have an open mind. You've got to believe that there are things out there other than things that you know or been brought up to know. You know, if your mind is closed off and you don't believe anything else exists, then nothing else will exist. But if you believe there is a possibility of other things happening, then you open your mind up to everything else. So yeah, I believe that. So that's me out. So I hope that has answered some questions for you. Whether you believe in life after death or not is down to you, but I believe it is, because otherwise there's no way in hell, or no way, not say hell, but there's no way he would have been able to tell me things he told me, because I wasn't even thinking them. Some people say it's mind reading. Well, no, it couldn't have been, because I wasn't even thinking of them. Oh, my mind was completely blank. So, and I pretty much didn't really give him anything to work with. So, there you have it. Right. Well, on to the next one.